Any other states or territories to see what plans have worked for them or the plans that did not?
We're constantly looking at what other states and territories have done. In my discussions with other governors, one of the most immediate reactions that we get, and even individuals that go away on business will tell us, is they're surprised we've not done layoffs, that we've not had massive closures or consolidations, whether it be of offices or programs. And they find that to be somewhat amazing to some to a very large extent. But if you look across the board, from layoffs of teachers in New York City to the reduction and consolidations of programs in Florida, Washington, D.C. has also cut back in terms of law enforcement and also in terms of healthcare. You're seeing that across the board, everyone is going through the very same problems that we're having. And there's no way that as a territory and an economy that depends on the United States, and principally on the eastern shoreboard of the United States, there's no way that we can't feel that effect ultimately. And the question is, how do we cushion it and how do we spread it across the board? And we're talking the Stabilization Act and the 8%. Let's keep in mind that we have a 1.7 million unfunded liability. We made the decision to increase the contributions in government from 14% to 17.5%. Even that is inadequate. If we want to fully fund GERS, we need to increase that to $70 million a year, by $70 million a year. In addition to that, we have workmen's compensation, which has a deficit in it at the same time. So there are other obligations we have, which we fully explained and exposed and told people about that, we also need to address. So the Economic Stabilization Act takes care of the general fund, but it doesn't address the host of other areas that have to be addressed and clearly can impact tremendously, because at some point, the number of retirees to active employees will tip the other way. And so we have to make sure that we reduce the unfunded liability by some means so that the cash that is going out of GERS, we can begin to lessen or at least reduce so that that doesn't put it at risk. Because their projection is that GERS is insolvent within 14 years. And that's really right around the corner.
Right. Are we also keeping an eye on what's going on in Washington right now with the debt ceiling and what may happen if things remain at a stalemate?
Well, for us, as is the tremendous impact on programs. We have a tremendous amount of federal programs that will clearly have an impact there. We also have our rum excise program that we're keeping a very sharp and close eye on. But when you look at the Department of Health, you look at Department of Human Services, those departments alone depend on a tremendous amount of federal resources coming in. Any reduction in that level will have a tremendous impact on the social services, whether it range from food stamps to mental health coverage to our HIV programs. So keeping an eye on it is something that clearly we have our advisors in D.C., contact with the delegates office, the senators that have always been extremely supportive to the Virgin Islands, are making sure that we're looked at and we're protected to whatever extent possible.
So, Governor, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel, or are there more just dark days to come?
I think they're difficult days. I think 2012 will be a turning point. I think it will be a very difficult year, not just in terms of a calendar, but the fiscal year, I think, until the end of it. But I think that the foundation is set. I think the VINGN projects, I think our Research and Technology Park, I think the Diageo project, Cruise and Rum, will give us some stability. The fact that additional airlift is coming in. If we can get some of these hotel projects to at least have the ability to get financing, I think we've got an ability to at least continue to grow. Our procurement practices, more that we spend with our local contractors, will cause funding to be circulated in our economy. The training programs, as individuals are laid off, we have training programs that are in industries at least where there's some semblance of hiring. I think all of that gives me a tremendous amount of hope. So do I think that there's light at the end of the tunnel? I do. I think now is the most bumpiest of times. I think people are concerned about the 8%, as I'm concerned about the 8%. I think retirees are concerned about their pension program, their pension payments, as they should be, and I am just as concerned. So if we can get past the next 12 months without us just thinking of ourselves, but more thinking of how we can stabilize and put the community in a solid foundation, I think we can get past. And I really do believe that people here have the fortitude to do it. It just takes leadership. It requires myself and the legislature not to be fighting, that we may disagree, but as long as we can be on the same path and towards an objective of making sure that we maintain employment, have opportunities for growth, and reduce expenses, and at the same time continue to give opportunities, I think people will see that and they'll work with us to go along the same path.
All right. Well, Governor, thanks for coming in to speak with us about this very important issue.